Hello and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I'm your sole host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Folks, take it easy. Fuzzy Belvedere should be here momentarily. I'm trying to get one additional person in for conversational purposes, but we got a lot to cover. The big topic of the day, folks, is going to be the PlayStation Nation is getting one of the best racers ever released, I would say, in the last decade, in the form of Forza Horizon 5. That was confirmed yesterday by numerous sources, but of course, I do have the original report, comes the way of Windows Central. Samuel Tolbert is the one that wrote that. We'll, break down exactly what he said in his article and what has been confirmed by Microsoft. And we're going to be getting into a few other topics, folks. It appears that it's just going to be me and Fuzzy Belvedere here today. It's fine. I threw up some footage of Black Ops 6, the most addictive game in the history of gaming, because, my God, I can't stop playing it. And Season 2 is amazing. But Fuzzy, you're here. Hey, man. Good morning, kind sir. Happy Friday. Welcome back, man. How you feeling?
Happy Friday. Can you hear me clear and everything?
Indeed. We see you clear. Best bald head in the business, folks. There it is for you to ponder upon. How's everything, dude?
It's great. And just been playing a lot of games lately. Fell back into Diablo 4 recently. So, yeah, spending a lot of time in that. Picked up a game called Tokyo Extreme Racer, playing a good
Nice
bit
on
of that.
PC. Very good. I know Mav's been playing that, and I know quite a few people have been playing that. Black Viking got it early. Chaosante got the deluxe package sent to him, which is pretty cool. Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm ready to get into these topics about one of my particular favorite franchises, going over to Team Blue.
Yeah, we're gonna be getting into that. A couple of shout outs before we get started, folks. First and foremost, which is the most important to me, true to my heart, I do want to wish my nephew, my amazing, smart, talented, unbelievably good video game player nephew, a happy birthday tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. He turns 16 years old, and my God, when I think about that, I'm not a dad, so he's the closest to a son that I have. And when I remember holding him in my arms, he was just this little peanut. And now he's as big as me, and I'm 6 feet, which is bonkers. But yeah, he's one of, listen, what can I say? Happy birthday, Tyler. We love you. We have lots of presents for you tomorrow. Lots of gaming presents, by the way. And he knows that already. I'm not spoiling anything. He knows what he's getting. So happy birthday to Tyler. Big thank you to anyone that, of course, is, which I'll get to the chat if you do say happy birthday to him. I definitely appreciate that. Couple of more shout outs. Of course, I can't talk about what I was doing yesterday, but I will be able to disclose what I was doing in secret yesterday on Monday. Got a bunch of pictures I'll be able to share, but I do want to say a big thank you to Kinda Funny's Greg Miller, who I got a chance to hang out with. Folks, I'm here to tell you, he is who you thought he was. Very personable, fun to talk to. And I got to hang out with him for a bit. I asked a bunch of questions. We went back and forth. Even gave him the business card for Double Barrel Gaming, which is freaking awesome. Because listen, whether you like Greg or you don't, I've been a big supporter of Kinda Funny since inception, and I've been a big fan of the work that they do at Kinda Funny. I've talked about that. Now, granted, we don't always agree. Sometimes they say things that I don't agree with. Some things I say that they don't agree with. But at the end of the day, have been a big fan of how he got to the empire that is Kinda Funny Games. And that was hard work, and that was dedication to the community first, which is something that Mrs. Boom and I do. And we're only hoping to have that kind of success at one point or another. Again, just one more shout out before we move forward. I got to thank Jeff Rubenstein, and I got to thank Obsidian and Xbox for allowing Double Barrel Gaming to be a part of the Avowed review. I am playing it right now. I'm actually playing 3 games right now. One is Avowed. Of course, I'm doing that for review. And Double Barrel Gaming, being that we got it 2 weeks ahead of schedule, we will have a full review ready to rock and roll when the embargo lifts on the 13th. Of course, I'm playing Call of Duty, which you see on the screen. And, there's a third game that I cannot talk about, which is Redacted. And I'm just having a really good time playing Xbox games right now, and just playing games in general. It has been a whirlwind for me personally and professionally. So, of course, Fuzzy, I'm going to allow you to run wild with this. I really think that if there's any one time at any one place for any one topic, well, it's Forza. And for you, Forza has been a driving point that brought you back to Xbox all those years ago.
Mhm.
And it continues to be a franchise that not only is top tier, but is it a franchise that places like PlayStation and even Nintendo, as great as people may believe Gran Turismo 7 is, and of course Mario Kart is, there's nothing like Forza Horizon 5. It is in a class on its own,
Mhm.
and it's safe to assume at some point or another that Forza Horizon 5 is going to show up on Nintendo Switch 2 as a launch title. It just makes sense. The console, as we know, is not as powerful as the Series X or PlayStation 5 Pro, but is supposedly as powerful as the Series S, and the Series S runs Forza Horizon 5 just fine. So I would imagine that it's going to be a game that is going to launch right alongside Mario Kart X, which is what we think it's going to be called. And again, it's a strategy that we understand, right? As gamers, we understand the business. OGs like myself find it incredibly odd that we're talking about putting the Trinity, the literally the pillars that hold up Xbox onto PlayStation and Nintendo. Well, folks, look, here's the thing. I don't like it. I've said that from the beginning, but the truth of the matter is that this is happening. It's happening because look what happened in December for Xbox and Microsoft. They made $500 million with games on other platforms. And if you think that they're going to stop at just Call of Duty and a few other games on PlayStation and Nintendo, that's just not going to happen. And next December, when you have games launching not only as exclusive and they'll be timed and some will stay, I would imagine, on Xbox, you're going to have games like Indiana Jones, like Doom, like the next Fallout. Obviously, keeping it laser focused just for this year, you could have Starfield in holiday of 2025 for PlayStation 5 and even Nintendo Switch. If that happens, again, I understand there's going to be people that are going to bash their Xboxes with hammers. Please don't do that. I've seen the videos. I've seen some of the stuff out there. Don't fall for the virtual banana in the tailpipe. A lot of this stuff is AI created. Now, again, if you have video of someone smashing their stuff, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Don't smash your things because A, they cost money, and B, you're not 9 years old. Don't act like a 9-year-old. If you're upset with the brand, vote with your wallet, go PC where you can play everything. But don't smash your things and then think you're going to get, 100 views on it? You just wasted $700. Don't do that, folks. Just please don't do that. But the big news yesterday, of course, comes the way of, again, this was written up by Samuel Tolbert of Windows Central. It was posted 21 hours ago. Confirmed, ladies and gentlemen, Forza Horizon 5 is the next title to make the leap from Xbox to PlayStation. And it goes on to say for the article, further to Microsoft's pledge to make Xbox more profitable, one of their biggest franchises is arriving on PlayStation soon. And when he says soon, he means spring. So I'm just going to read verbatim from the article. If you've read the article already, just please bear with us because some people have not. The article says this: the next Xbox game being ported over to PlayStation 5 is Playground Games' Forza Horizon 5. The Xbox teams revealed it on Thursday. Over the past year, Microsoft has made no secret of its plans to begin launching more and more games on the PlayStation ecosystem. Sea of Thieves was among the first, then Indiana Jones was announced, and now Microsoft is going even further. Forza Horizon 5 is one of Microsoft's most successful games in the platform's history, serving tens of millions of players. The flagship racing game is the gold standard for the genre. And is this a multi-plat award-winning game? Yes, it is. It's also a huge moneymaker for Microsoft, owing to its live service nature, ongoing updates, and app purchases. Forza Horizon 5 launched back on the Xbox Series X and the Series S and the Xbox One and Windows PC in November of 2021. The game was a roaring success, rapidly reaching over 20 million players, and like its predecessors, achieving critical acclaim. So, Fuzzy, again, this is your baby. This is one of your favorite games. It continues to play. We have a lot of questions. This is going to be one of those topics, folks, that has a lot of layers. So we're going to get initial impressions. Then we're going to kind of walk it up a bit and talk about what this actually does for Gran Turismo as a franchise. Because I got news for you. Even though this is a stark difference, literally a 1,000% difference from what you get with Gran Turismo, it's going to be hard for Gran Turismo to one-up Forza Horizon 5. It really is, because, yes, I looked at the numbers, and I got some numbers that were estimated. So I don't have, again, take it with a grain of salt. It was from a Gran Turismo website, not officially, but they calculated the numbers based on Gran Turismo's sports sales. So I don't know how accurate it is, but they do have Gran Turismo 7 as not only being one of the best-selling Gran Turismos for PlayStation, it's about to pass Gran Turismo 3, which right now is its best-selling Gran Turismo game. And that number was about 14.5 million copies across the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So we will see. I'm trying to get some accurate numbers. That is the number that they calculated. If it's true, awesome. If it's not, take it with a grain of salt. But Fuzzy, I just want to bring this right back around to why we're here, and that's to talk about PlayStation getting one of the best racing franchises in Forza Horizon. But not only that, Forza Horizon 5 is probably one of the best racers, without making it a stretch, in the last decade. What does this actually do for the franchise?
Well, I want to start with addressing those that are smashing your Xboxes or supposedly smashing their Xboxes. It's a waste of time and energy and attention seeking to the point where you would be better off, although I've seen people do this too, and this is still silly to me, to post your receipts from GameStop, but wouldn't it make more sense to trade it in if you're done with Xbox, trade it in for that PS5, at least get $300 out of it and whatnot. That would make more sense to me. So the silliness of smashing a device doesn't send a message to Xbox. It sends a message to the community that you're probably not mentally stable. So that's a whole nother story. But all of that aside, my backstory started where I was more of a PlayStation guy up until, PS4 and Xbox One. And the big game for PS4 that I was looking forward to was Drive Club. Now, if you guys remember that far back, Drive Club was delayed a year because it was supposed to be a launch title when the console released. It was delayed a year, some sort of, polishing issues, whatever the case may be. And then when it was released, it was kind of a soup sandwich, let's just say, as far as its online component, because that was the big thing that this whole game was built around. Which, if you're familiar with Forza Horizon, you know how the online is greatly integrated into it. But for like the first 3 months, I want to say, its online presence was abysmal. Now, they tried to get it where you could sign in within, I think it was like 40 days, 60 days range, where you could sign in. The drawback was, if you signed in, nobody else could sign in after you, or up to a certain amount of people could sign in. So you were dependent on somebody, signing out to be able to access an online race, or that they changed the playlist of races that were available. And then at that point you were kind of booted and you'd have to restart. And it was a nonsense moment after nonsense moment. And the reason why that brought me to Forza is because they advertised this as a Forza killer, which, on PlayStation, I didn't really know what that meant. Gran Turismo was always the go-to, driving sim as far as I was concerned. So hearing Forza, the thing that was coming out on Xbox at the time was Forza. Actually, at that time, it was Forza Horizon 2, which they did a 360 release and an Xbox One release. And I figured, well, let me give this a try, considering if this was what they were supposed to be killing, and this game is not exactly working, which, by the way, I bought like the $100 edition way back then, or whatever the Ultimate Edition was, and they gave away 30 days worth of that content free as an apology, but they didn't do anything for those that paid the $100. See, physical copies, I guess, has their drawbacks to some extent, so that kind of pissed me off. And on top of that, being it was supposed to be a Forza killer, I figured, well, let me give it a try. And I haven't really looked back since. Well, then again, they also closed Evolution Studio, and Drive Club was delisted like almost, it feels like almost a decade ago, but it was roughly about like 6 or 7 years ago that they delisted it. But all of that to say, Forza Horizon to me was one of the best arcade racers out there. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, Gran Turismo, but that's a sim racer. That's more on the lines of like where Forza Motorsport would be, which each one of them has their pros and each one of them has their cons. And I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time of what I feel each one does well and which one, what each one does, poorly, because they each have their flaws and they each have their pros. But when it comes to Horizon versus, like, let's say Drive Club, one, survival, which we know when it comes to games like Concord and quite a few others, they're not here with us any longer. So Forza Horizon actually wound up, progressing into this festival racer, which even Ubisoft had to copy, considering that was probably their more successful version of the Crew since then. But the whole festival thing that they really leaned into, with actually since the first one, but the third one, I think when they were in Australia is where it really expanded, where you had to open up additional festival locations and such. And you were more of the owner of the festival kind of deal. And then they continued that with 4 and added seasons. And then 5, they have seasons, but they're not as noticeably different just because of the landscape. Like Mexican winters, as far as I guess on the mountains, get snowy, but not really snowy much elsewhere. But yeah, it's great that this game is taking the next step as far as being multi-platform. And I know a lot of diehards are going to be like, what are you talking about? If this is your favorite franchise, why would you say that? Well, it's already pretty much run the course on PC and Xbox. If I'm not mistaken, it's between 40 million and 45 million players currently.
Yes,
that have played the game. So I don't think you're really going to get any larger audience than moving it to other platforms. And why would you want a larger audience? Well, a lot of us are clamoring for Forza Horizon 6 to be in Japan. I'm hearing it may be in Germany, whichever one it is. I want like street racing on the highways, much like Tokyo Extreme Racer, which is a game I just picked up on PC. It's an early access. I want to see something like that incorporated into the next series. But keep in mind, as budgets get bigger and we want the games to get bigger, that cost has to come from somewhere. So if they're not getting additional subscriptions or additional sales on the platform where they've already reached 45 million players, what better way to get, let's say, an extra 5 to 15 million players into the fold and have it where we can collect the full $70 or whatever, the deluxe deal with all the car packs and whatnot costs over on PlayStation into that budget. Now, sure, I'm pretty sure some of that will go into shareholders' pockets and whatnot, but a lot of that's going to go back to the studio. A lot of that will be able to be distributed amongst other gaming budgets within Microsoft Gaming or Xbox in general. So that way we get more of the games that we see dropped into Game Pass day and date. So I'm fine with it going over there just for the fact, one, it's going to now expose the hypocrisy of a lot of people that used to trash talk Forza Horizon, like, oh, it's not a real racing game. Yeah, well, it's a real arcade racer, but there hasn't really been a good one on PlayStation since the demise of Drive Club. And Crew is about the only other thing they can get. And that, I would say, is like I wouldn't say it's the redheaded stepchild, but it's not on par, I think, with Forza Horizon. So I get it. Some of the more diehard fans are not happy with this decision. I mean, me personally, whenever they started putting games on the other platform, it goes against what we've all kind of grew up on. But if it means I get more games in Game Pass day and date, dual entitlement on both PC and Xbox consoles, I'm fine with it. As long as they're not taking anything away and giving a special car pack to PlayStation only. Like in the old days, like what they used to have with Call of Duty, where you get certain skins or, certain, loadouts and things like that PlayStation got that you didn't get on Xbox. Same thing happened with Destiny and a few other games. So as long as they're not doing anything along those lines, which I don't foresee Phil or any of the Xbox executives doing something that foolish to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this blue series of cars that you get free only on PlayStation. Like that would be ridiculous. But with that not being the case, I would say take out your frustration online against those that buy it on PlayStation. I mean, don't be toxic about it. Don't call them all names under the sun kind of deal, but just build your car or download an existing tune and race them on the highway or race them in some of the festival events and things like that. Take out your frustration that way. To me, that's more of the console war that I kind of saw coming from a while ago. Like, ever since they did this cross progression, well, not really cross progression, but cross play, where things like Fortnite was really turning up the screws against PlayStation to make it so you can play against others. I say that should be where the console wars move, or if you want to call it the content wars moving forward. But have game night where it's like PlayStation versus Xbox people and race it out that way.
I think. Listen, folks, you're never going to get the communities to agree 100%, but that's just the world. Mm-hmm. I just think that things are changing, and people have to understand that their feelings, they matter. See, and I want to hand the mic back over to you, but I do just want to acknowledge this. If you are a diehard PlayStation gamer, you are cheering this. If you are a diehard Xbox player, you're probably loathing this. I get it. Your feelings matter. They absolutely matter to me. They matter to the channel, and they probably matter to a lot of people in the community. But the truth of the matter is that the industry is on the verge of imploding. It's bloated. It is very expensive to make a game, and these companies want to make money. Is it an excuse? I guess maybe if you are that, hung up on it, maybe it sounds like I've bent the knee. But I'm also someone that is older than most people here in the chat. I'm older than most podcasters in the circles that we run in. And I've been gaming probably the longest. And I have seen traditional gaming, and I've seen the change that is happening. And it is happening, folks, whether you like it or you don't. If you smash your Xbox, okay, good on you for doing that. You smash your PlayStation because, and again, listen, if you think that it starts and ends with Xbox only games going to Switch 2 and PlayStation, it's not, because maybe Switch continues to be who we thought that they were. And that's Nintendo being Nintendo. But you just had massive leadership movement in PlayStation. And that's because the way Herman was running the show was not right. Okay, that was maybe him and Jim were online, and when Jim left, he took over where Jim, dropped the ball, and he just kept doing his thing. You have different leadership that just said in call for investors that they are going to aggressively make moves to make money on their games on other platforms. Now, is that only PC? If that makes you sleep well at night, by all means, have a nice sleep. But that is not the reality of things. Maybe they're going to move slower, and they're probably going to move way slower because that's just who they are, right? That's Sony just drags their heels. They do a lot of following. They do a lot of copying. And when all the arrows have been slung at Microsoft, and Microsoft's been beat over the head, they stand up and they announce they're doing something, and everyone cheers it on like it's something new. That's how Sony rolls. So this is probably how it's going to roll, and it's going to start with PC. Ghost of Yotai is going to be PC day and date. I'm telling you that is. Now, that's not that I've heard it from anybody over at the studio. I'm just saying it makes too much sense for a game that is probably going to sell really well on PlayStation because it is a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, but it's going to sell well on PC and probably even better. But I'm sorry I derailed your thoughts. I just wanted to throw that out there. Fuzzy, please continue.
Yeah, I think moving forward, the biggest thing to look at is that exclusives, as far as just being only on Xbox, I guess is going to be a thing in the past. And the, I guess, Game Pass at this point is that exclusive. I know people have said that early on, as far as something that when Phil said the thing about Bethesda where those games will be only on places where Game Pass exists, kind of thing. Well, we all know, I guess, Nintendo, although I guess we could find out if there's any cloud streaming stuff on the Switch too, which I wouldn't be surprised, which, looking at things like the Quest having it and a few other devices out there having it kind of makes sense to some extent, but I could see Nintendo continuing with their, only their walled garden. But in the grand scheme of things, games moving forward, these budgets are definitely out of control, and I hate this ridiculousness of the conversation of $100 Grand Theft, or was it GTA 6 kind of thing? Like
Nope.
that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I know, game companies want to make money, but I think you would cut your sales in half, not really doubling the price, but increasing the price that much for like a base edition. I could see, even though it's a well sought after game, highly anticipated, I don't think everybody that's anticipating to play that game is willing to part with that $100 on the basic edition. Now, if you do like a collector's edition or a deluxe edition at 100, where maybe you get a few extra skins or you already get an in-game house or something, I'm pretty sure people will justify spending that 100. But if you're just talking about the basic game at 100, I mean, me personally, if it's not PC day and date at that point, then I will probably wait it out until it comes to PC. But that's just me. And it's not for not having the funds to do it. It's just I don't want to encourage companies to pay or transition to that pay $100 for every game release type of deal. I did the same thing with the 70. There are very few games that I paid 70 or over 70 for. A lot of them I usually wait until their deluxe edition is below 70 as far as sale time. So sometimes that's 2 months later, like things like what was that, Saints Row or whatever. Sometimes it could be 6 months later, like Ratchet and Clank. So there's plenty of games to play for under that price point, and $100 will just make me that much more of a I wouldn't say a stingy gamer, but more of a frugal gamer at that point, as far as where my money goes. But this game going over there, yes, it's over 4 years old. We're hearing that there will probably be an announcement either late this year or next year of a Forza Horizon 6. I'm wondering what the licensing matters for this. Is this delisted next year or 2 years from now, or what the case might be as far as how the licensing goes? This is kind of like an Xbox experiment, because with it being a licensed thing that normally after about 5 or 6 years gets delisted,
Yep.
if it sells well enough on PlayStation, does that mean now they'll just pay extra to continue those licenses and then possibly make an online playground where you have the maps for like the original Forza Horizon in the US, or the one in Europe for Forza Horizon 2, or Australia for 3, where you can bounce around to any of these locations online, and then the next game will just be that map added into the online experience, but the game itself, being, moving forward, will be almost like that single player experience that you could do co-op and whatnot. But the online maps, much like the way GTA works, you could possibly see it where you can go to the airport like they used to have. Well, they still have airport runways that you can use as drag strips and stuff, but you go to the airport and you can fly to a different location within the Forza universe, which at some point I really hope they take the concept that they have with Flight Sim and do like a world map type of thing. But that might take beefier hardware, whether it's the next gen Xbox or the one after that type of deal. But I think moving forward, considering the way layoffs and cost cutting and expensive budgets and all that are going, I think this is a better step forward, as opposed to hearing that, oh, well, they do have to let some people go because, after they did the budget for Forza Horizon 6 and it didn't sell 20 million units that first day or whatever, that might be something where they have to not really cut corners, but cut budgets or release some people or release some of the contractors or employees and things. So if it means they're getting more money to avoid those things, then I'm all for it, because that means we get more games down the pipe from those studios. More games that I like, as far as, things like Forza Horizon, hopefully in Japan for 6. But I don't really have an issue with it. Like I said, if it's not taking anything away from me, it doesn't really matter to me. About the biggest issue I've had with Playground and Xbox recently when it came to Forza Horizon was how they did the divide up on the car packs on Steam versus Xbox. Like,
Yes.
if you bought it on Steam and let's say you bought 2 of the car packs, well, it'll take that from that $50 or $52, price pack for all the car packs. You'll get the reduction off of that, which you still get like a flat 30% discount or something like that. When it comes to it on Xbox, it's like a little bit bigger than a 30% discount, but the drawback is if you bought those extra car packs, you don't see any price break in comparison. And considering they're the actual platform holder, it would make kind of more sense to do it the same way that Steam has it, but it is what it is type of deal. But that's a minor glitch or blip on my radar as far as problems with it. I figure by the holidays, those car packs will probably be another 30% off anyway for the big pack. So it'll even out at that point for me. But I think my biggest thing is, for all of those that are on PlayStation that have been bad mouthing Horizon, go ahead and try it out and see if it is as bad as you thought it was, based on like the screenshots from Series S, like pictures, or low spec PC pictures, when you try to compare it to the photo mode in GT7, which isn't the in-game, but or just see where you can have it where it's full on arcade physics to somewhat simcade physics as well, because you can adjust things like the traction control, the ABS braking, or the strength of the ABS braking and stuff like that. So you can make it more like a sim. And you've seen people online where they have like $1,000 rig for the racing seat, wheel and pedals and shifter, and they have it on the monitor and on their PC, where it looks as good as almost like some of the real life sims, or even like the real life mods that you have for GTA with the real car brands that people mod into the game. So I don't know. To me, I encourage every PlayStation cat that's into arcade racers, give it a try. I would say it's worth the money. Your mileage may vary, but being a car enthusiast, it's one of the few games that has the most cars in it all the time. Like, I think they're hovering right around 900 unique cars. And when people are like, oh, well, there's a tons of cars in GT7. Yeah. Half of the cars are probably Nissan GTRs. I'm just saying, how many GTRs do you need, or different variants? And if you're going to have that many variants, at least have other cars. Like, yes, there's probably, if I'm not mistaken, 8 GTRs in Forza Horizon, but with 900 cars, there's a lot more that are missing from the 400 or so that are in GT7. So might be worth a shot. And yeah, there's SUVs, but they're not the slow, boring SUVs. You got, Porsche Cayennes, and you got the
you got the 2022 Bronco that was incredibly fast, bro. That was like a rocket.
Mm-hmm. And you got the Trailhawk Grand Cherokee as well, the SRT8 Grand Cherokee. So I mean, there's, if you want to race SUVs, and even the old Typhoon and Cyclone are in there from GMC, when those were like basically a Buick Grand National in truck and SUV clothing to some extent. But yeah, it's a worthwhile game. Pick it up. Hit me up. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. We can race. Not the greatest racer, but I do have some decent tunes on 800 spec and lower cars. That's more of my realm, only because the 800 cars are like what I've actually driven on the road. So you'll see me with my C5 Z06, or you'll see me with my Camaro Z28, the newer style, like what was that, 2010 or 2011 that they had that. So yeah, have fun with the game. More games are going to probably go over there. I would say if you're going to be upset about it, get it out of your system now, but don't break the box. Either donate it, sell it, trade it, whatever. Smashing it only just tells us you're probably not safe to to be around in person kind of thing. But other than that, that's all I got.
No, I mean, listen, great points all around, and I'm glad you kind of went off on a tangent because this is your joint, right? This is your jam for sure. I want to levy my hot take and opinion. So, the one thing that we can all admit is that this game is older, right? Forza Horizon 6 is around the corner. Now, how soon is that? Well, I don't think it's this year. I think it's going to be the launch of what potentially could be the next console or consoles in 2026. So we're definitely not getting it this year. We're getting it next year. Forza Horizon 5 launched on November 5th of 2021, folks. And I think it really was pointed out in a great way that everyone that has bought it and played it and will continue to support it is already on Xbox or PC. They announced a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's a month now, that they had crossed 41 million players. And maybe they're at 45 million players right now. The game still is not coming out. It's not available on PlayStation 5. It will be this spring, right alongside Indiana Jones. Now, are they going to release it in the same month? I have no idea. But those are two big games coming out. And obviously in May, you have both those games have to contend with Doom, which of course is going to also be a multi-plat title. So Xbox gamers are eating great in Xbox Game Pass, and PlayStation gamers are getting fed by Xbox games. And I really want you to, I know people are going to be in their feelings on both sides. Both sides of the aisle are going to be upset about this. What I'm about to say. If you're a PlayStation gamer, pray to the gaming gods and tell them thank you for Xbox putting games on your console, because guess what? PlayStation isn't doing it for you. They have not released any great games. Now, granted, Astrobot's great for me, not great for a lot of PlayStation gamers. And do you know why we know that? Because you knuckleheads didn't go out and buy it. You talked about it because it won Game of the Year and it won all these awards, as it should. It's a fantastic game. Now, Game of the Year at the Keeleys, I don't know so much. Game of the Year and other podcasts, well, that's their opinion. Indiana Jones was my Game of the Year. In our group, it was the group Game of the Year. So Indiana Jones got its accolades, but we're also a very small podcast and nobody gave a shit. I get it. But Indiana Jones was a standout last year. Now, if Astrobot was so great, where are all the sales? Where are all the Astrobot fans? They're nowhere to be found because they only play Twitter. They don't even play their console. So this year, more specifically, PlayStation Nation, you are being fed to the guild by Xbox games. And and there are some running with these W flags. You should run with a W flag. You are winning. You get a chance to play Doom. You get a chance to play Forza Horizon 5, Indiana Jones, probably Starfield during the holidays, because I think Starfield's going this year. A bunch of other titles could be coming over there. You still got The Outer Worlds 2. You're eating good in the Xbox neighborhood, and guess what? You're spending $76.43, or at least top retail price, for every time a game goes over there. Congratulations, you've won. You're playing excellent games. Congratulations, Microsoft. They make more millions of dollars, and now they're millionaires and now billionaires. I don't give a shit because I'm not getting any of that money. But what I am getting, Fuzzy Belvedere, is investment into hardware, which has been confirmed, investment into first-party development, which continues to be the standard for Xbox. And, of course, Xbox Game Pass is continually getting stacked. You know how many games released in the last 7 days for Game Pass? There's so many games, I don't even know what to do with myself. On top of the games I'm already playing, one for review, one is redacted, I can't talk about, and I'm still going back to Call of Duty. We're eating good. So there's no rhyme or reason why you as an Xbox player should be upset. Yes, I get it. The lines have been blurred. They've been crossed. There's no red lines. I get all of that. Be in your feelings if that makes you feel better. But we need to talk about it and keep it laser focused to why we're all here, and that is to talk about games. We have so many games coming out for Xbox as Xbox players, consumers, and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. It is the most first party games in the history of the platform. How does that not excite you? And somehow or another, this multi-plat strategy, which stinks ultimately, is going to somehow lead the charge. Don't allow hate to take over. I get it's super easy to do that, but you are winning as an Xbox gamer, even if games are going over to PlayStation. And that is the truth. And it's really should be focused about what games you are getting, what games you are playing on your preferred platform. Now, there's been a big question, Fuzzy Belvedere, of why should I have an Xbox?
Mhm.
Why should I even bother? I could, well, listen, if you have the money for PC, that's probably the way you should be playing, because the 5090s are coming out. You can go out and spend $3,000 on a card if you want, and you can make these things look lifelike. That's awesome. But as an Xbox gamer, we talked about this, I think last week, and I just want to reiterate it for a second before I get to super chats and we get into some of the other topics. So, of course, I have it up here. These are the top 10 reasons why you continually play on Xbox right now, and why you will continually play on Xbox in the future. And mind you, there's going to be other future reasons why you buy an Xbox. You have Quick Resume. This is probably one of the best features that nobody in the industry talks about. It is spectacular. Smart Delivery is another one. They get no credit for the fact that if a game comes out and has better graphics, you're not paying for it. Sony charged you $10 to upgrade from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, and it's not a lot. It's not a big upgrade, folks. It's just not. You have the use of real VRR. You have auto HDR for older games. You have the FPS boost for older games. You got free 4K updates for older games. 3 generations of backwards compatibility. And also, not only does that work digitally, that works physically. Like, you could take your disc that is a certified backwards compatibility from 2002, throw it into your console, and it works. That's insane. And no, again, nobody gives it credit. You have, of course, the star of the show is Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. For $20, you are winning. Even if you don't go for the deal, even if you don't go hunting for the different places where you can find the 3-month or 6-month or even a year sub for half the price of what you'd pay Microsoft for, and you're paying your $240 a year, you're still winning. You know why that is? Because during the direct of last week, it was well over $300 worth of games, and that was just 5 games. In your service confirmed, day and date. So that basically, those 5 games literally paid for your $240 for the year of 2025, and you still have a ton of shit coming. Who loses here? Nobody. Xbox Play Anywhere. That is not only a big thing now, but it's going to be bigger in the future, because we know that they are driving towards this future about you being able to play your own content literally anywhere there is a screen, and they are leading the charge in doing that. The future is incredibly bright, folks. Don't fall for the negativity. Best controller in the business. Do I have to say that? Because I'll say it again. Best controller in the business, especially if you are someone like me who uses half trigger pulls and paddles when I play Call of Duty. It's a game changer. And again, this is a bonus one. I think it does matter because we're all consumers at our core. Is Xbox has the best return policy in gaming. PlayStation continuously beats down their consumer, and if you try to go outside of the circle of Sony, they'll ban your account, and that will be locked down until you literally pay for what you tried to return. And that's how Sony rolls. So I mean, this is not rocket science, folks. You can go find all of this stuff for yourself. I just thought it was important to give anyone that's on the edge of why you should play an Xbox. And you know something? Play on PC. You get all of this stuff too. You know, play on Xbox Game Pass PC. You're still winning, folks. You just are. But Fuzzy, I mean, listen, it's again, I understand, folks. Hashtag feelings. It matters. Your feelings matter to me. I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm not sending you out of the door, go to your room. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it does matter because we've been loyal fans for years. And again, this is the thing that we keep hearing. Xbox is finally delivering on first party in the biggest way possible. It would have been something special 5 years ago if every one of these games were exclusive. You have a different generation. You have a different market leader. But that's not where it was, folks. That's just not where it was. It took a long time for the Xbox to get where they are. And in the process of doing that, they had to make moves that were just things that we're not used to. And it's happening, folks. Again, Halo Master Chief Collection. This is a game that's 10 years old. Is it going to hurt you to have that on Switch 2 or even on PlayStation 5? I mean, for me, man, that's weird to say. That's just really weird to say. But it is happening. And we have to just deal with it and understand that if you remain an Xbox gamer, you are winning still. Even if these games go over and there's some sort of a day, I don't know if we're ever going to get to the point where it's day and date. Like a Fable will come out and like, oh, it's on PlayStation. I don't think that is going to happen. Because I think you see the pattern of the way these games are going. There's so many games that launched already that will get into PlayStation and then push those other games further out. Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 2 years? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But I don't think you're ever going to get to a place where it's day and date. That's just my thought, my theories. But let me catch up on Super Chats. And my God, this is going to be a minute, folks, because there's a lot of them. And Mrs. Boom and I, honestly, are incredibly grateful for this kind of generosity, ladies and gentlemen. So we have a new channel member, Coachman 2236. Thank you, kind sir. We definitely appreciate you becoming a channel member. It does make a difference for the channel in big ways because, again, one of our prime directives is to give back. And we do give back in a big way, and we love it. We honestly, truly love giving to this community because you guys and gals give us so much. It's literally the least that we can do is give back. Brett Bingham drops a couple of super chats. Actually, the first one of $2. He says, "Don't act like a 9-year-old. That is a pony's job." And I mean, again, you're not wrong, Brett. Again, please, folks, for the love of the gaming gods, don't break your shit. It costs money. It doesn't make sense. You're going to get 1,000 views. Hell, you may even get 1 million views. But was it worth it? I don't know so much about that. But Simon Brady drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, Forza Horizon 5 and the Master Chief Collection going multi-plat only makes sense if Forza Horizon 6 and the next Halo are exclusives timed. I keep hearing like the mic being hit, Fuzzy.
That might be me typing. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. No sweat. No sweat. He says here, do a bait and switch, introduce players to Xbox IP to entice them. I mean, that makes this is what they're doing. Now, look, if what Simon is saying makes sense, they are introducing new players to older IPs. Will that convert people over to buy the next Xbox? I don't think so. I think if you have a PlayStation, you're probably going to play on PlayStation. That's the way it is. It's fine. But if the next Xbox, ladies and gentlemen, is this magical box, this hybrid PC / Xbox that looks like, smells like, and acts like an Xbox, but ultimately is a high-end PC underneath your TV, at that point, folks, and I say this not trying to be trendy, not trying to be console war-y, I'm going to use the same logic that PlayStation gamers have been using against Xbox. Why do I need an Xbox? I have a PC. Okay, that's great. But if this magic box exists and the plan for Hiroki Totoki and Sony are to put games day and date on PC. What happens when this magical mystery box shows up in 2026 and you now can play Xbox games, games from your Steam library, games from your Epic store, and of course, this is the caveat. What if the next God of War is available on Steam day and date? You will be able to play the next God of War on your Xbox through Steam. Seems really weird, right? Like, I can't believe I'm even saying that, but again, it's just reverse logic. So great point, Simon. Space Shot drops a very generous $5 super chat. And he goes on to say, when we grew up, games didn't update, no online play, no play save progression, long live single player games, but the revenue is here. I mean, yeah, it is. Again, this is a much different gaming world than 10 years ago. Shit, it's a different gaming world from 5 years ago. But again, great points all around, and we just have to you just have to find the platform that gives you the most bang for your buck, whatever that is for you personally, depending on your finances. You have to set yourself up to win. Don't wait for the companies to do it for you because they're just going to take your money. We have here Robo 2024, who's been a channel member for a whopping 27 months. He goes on to say, Dirk Griggity says ages ago, Forza Horizon 5 was going to PlayStation 5 from his source. Yeah, Doodoo Jenkins. I don't know who he is, but his Doodoo Jenkins is a super inside source because he talks about him all the time. And Doodoo Jenkins gets it right, folks. I don't have a Doodoo Jenkins. I don't have a name for my source. He's unnamed. But he's just as good. Shout out to, of course, Sean and Dirk Griggity. Great content each and every week. And they've just been killing it. Brett Bingham drops an additional very generous $10 super chat and says, I don't think dragging their feet will be a thing under Hiroki Totoki. Boom, being a finance guy, which this is what Brett is, means that time is money. And if they don't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And ultimately, as simplistic as that line may be, Brett's onto something. Hiroki Totoki has put in place someone that is going to make money. And in his, again, just reiterating, folks, his statement to investors, they are going to aggressively seek out ways to make money using their IP on other platforms. He said platforms with an S, not PC platform, not Switch platform, platforms. Again, what does that ultimately mean? Does that mean Helldivers is coming to Xbox? Folks, I'm here to tell you, I believe it is. Because if the PlayStation gamers aren't supporting it through buying the DLC for it, are they going to depend on just PC? Are the PC crowds going to continue to fund this game? Maybe. But what if you took that IP and you launched it on an Xbox? Would Xbox guys like me buy it? I bought it on PlayStation 5. Did you buy it, PlayStation players? I hope you did. But I would buy it on Xbox. I'd gladly play on Xbox because I would use my favorite controller, and I prefer achievements over trophies. So they'd get another chunk of money out of me. And I bought DLC. I spent at least $100 worth of buying the game and DLC. So they got me for $100 on PlayStation 5. I'm not sorry that I did. That game was great. Difficult as H, but great nonetheless. Jay Rambert drops a very generous $10 super chat. And Jay goes on to say, this has been rumored for over a year. People need to get a grip. However, I'll continue to stress is my concern for the console. The next console will need to be better than good as well. And you know something? That's a great point. And I really want to I want to reiterate some of the things that Phil said during the interview. And I don't recall whether it was with Danny Pena and Paris or it was with Destin. He specifically pointed out that their next piece of hardware had to be different. And the difference that he's talking about is this hybrid. Because he reiterated and pointed out that the consoles have been the same for years. for people to pick the next Xbox, it has to be something special. For some reason we dropped frames. Let's see if we're still here. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're back.
it paused for a second.
Yeah,
It went silent
right.
for a second.
Okay, so I think you're going to see two consoles next year. I think one's the hybrid. I think one is, of course, the handheld, and they're going to be both in the same ilk, where they're going to be these PC things that act and look like consoles, and that's going to be a win for everybody. We also have Will Sims here. Will, thank you so much for being here, and of course, thank you very much for the very generous $10 super chat. Will goes on to say, every publisher has to have a sustainable way to fund and profit from games with return on investment, or ROI. Microsoft figure it out. Gamers have to grow up. Also, did you see the animated Splinter Cell trailer for Netflix? I did not. But I mean, I look, I'm excited, but I'm saddened. We're now in another generation without an actual new Splinter Cell. I don't even know what to say. It's sickening. I don't care about a remake of the original, but for God's sakes, give me something new, please. And at this point, can Michael Ironside, because the guy is old, can he do it? I don't know. I'll say that. But Brett Bingham. Oh, so that was Will. Will, thank you again. Brett Bingham drops an additional $5 super chat and says, publishers are the dots, and Xbox, Microsoft is Pac-Man. Who's next? I mean, look, this whole TikTok thing that kind of went real hot and real silent, kind of like a shooting star. I don't know if that's going to happen. Personally, I hope it doesn't. But then a piece of me says, well, if it does, everyone's going to know what Game Pass is, because they're going to drop commercials into it, and TikTok is big. Great. Awesome. Again, millionaires becoming billionaires. I'm not one of them. Again, any of the billionaires out there, send me over to 20% so Mrs. Boom and I can get out of this apartment. Thank you. I'll just throw that out there for you. But look, it's a great point. They're going to buy somebody else. The question is who? Is it Take-Two? Is it Ubisoft? I don't know. We'll find out soon enough. Our generous friend all the way from Hawaii says, mahalo, Boom, for this community. The superb panel, members, the amazing chat. Gaming is life. Aloha to all gamers. Aloha to you, brother, and to your family. Hopefully you're doing well, and thank you so much for being a channel member for over a year. We super appreciate that. Will the Insider Broke Boy Lewis, who got it right about South of Midnight, says this after dropping a very generous $10 super chat. He goes on to say, I'll say it again. Do you think Forza Horizon 5 will have crossplay? Yes, it will. He says, I see several PlayStation fanboys saying they're going to turn it off so they don't have to deal with Xbox players. Sounds like they're afraid of a little competition. Look, I play against PlayStation. I have crossplay for PC, for PlayStation, for Black Ops. First of all, I don't talk on mics usually unless I'm with a party. Well, you know this, because people are just psychotic and they're nasty, and I'm too old for this shit. But if they want to turn it off, there's ability to turn off crossplay. Good for them, man. Let them play with their friends. But I don't. I mean, I'd like to race against some PlayStation guys and gals and see what that's about. That would actually be kind of fun. I really wish that they would dig into the celebration of this rather than the negativity. And what I mean by that is, it would be pretty cool. And I don't know if this is going to happen, folks. This is like one of those childish wish dreams that you have. That you kind of wish the world was, all holding hands and kumbaya. It would be pretty cool if this was embraced by the community and you actually had like Friday night races where it was PlayStation versus Xbox. I know that's childish. It's silly. I completely understand it. But that's something that I think would be incredibly cool. Like, how many races did Xbox players beat the PlayStation players, or vice versa? I think that would be incredibly ultra cool. But then again, I'm a nerd. So, but great point. Dizzy _Dre112 drops a very generous $5 super chat. And first of all, I want to welcome you here, Dizzy, or Drizzy, I should say. Thank you so much for the generosity. Drizzy goes on to say, I'll say it again. Microsoft is now turning Xbox into the gaming version of Windows. They really carrying gaming in 2025. Microsoft wins. Yeah, I mean, their investors win for sure. I think we as gamers, we win because, of course, Game Pass is going to continue to be funded. First party development is going to continue, which is awesome. And of course, investment into hardware is a proven fact because we're going to have hardware probably for the next 15 years, maybe even longer than that, because hardware matters. Yes, you can play on your TV and all those other places, but that's who wants to play there. It's fun if you're on the road, you're on the bus, you're at the doctors waiting for you to be cool. That's great. But I want to sit in front of my TV. I bought a very expensive TV that has all the bells and whistles. That's what I want to play on, and I want the box under the TV. And Xbox is going to deliver that. We have a channel member here who's been a channel member for a month. I think it's Jinzo86. I think the S is silent. So Jinzo, thank you for being a channel member. That's very kind of you. I got to get you into the list. He doesn't actually say anything, but thank you, Jinzo. We definitely appreciate the generosity. Leonard Herrera, who's been a channel member for a whopping 34 months, goes on to say, "Boom, Fuzzy, keep up the great work. That's very kind of you, sir." Now we have a bunch more. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop it there because Fuzzy, I want to bring in this interview that Danny Benya did with the former vice president of publisher and developer relations at Sony Interactive Entertainment, Adam Boyes. Now, Adam Boyes was the founder of Beefy Media, if you did not know, and I do have that queued. So let me just do a quick screen share, and I want to bring that up because I think what Adam Boyes has to say is relatively important. And I wish the interview would have been a little longer. So again, shout out to Danny Pena of course, Gamertag Radio, who did this sit down interview. And I would imagine that on Gamertag there's a full interview, but this clip Danny posted on his X account. So of course I want to just bring that up for a hot second and let you guys and gals hear what Adam Boyes has to say, because I think it's an understanding of where the industry is changing. So let me just bring this up. Let me just add it here. Pardon the footage. Again, you're not really watching the video, so I'm going to leave it as is. But I do want you guys and gals to hear exactly what Adam Boyes had to say. Here we go.
Your thoughts about that, where a company like Microsoft now going multi-platform, those days, early days when you were at PlayStation, it was we have the exclusive. You only can find it on this console, so what are your thoughts about that change and that strategy that Microsoft is heading?
Yeah, I understand why people have feelings about it and opinions, because if their idea is the identity of me choosing a brand and being beholden to that brand is unilateral, and therefore that should be the one source of all content. And I love that Phil mentioned, there's a box in the name, right? Xbox is part of the name. But I do think if we think about it, sort of the analogy of they were Blockbuster that became Netflix. And what I mean by that is when they began, it was about the physical unit being the sort of entertainment experience in the living room. And that was basically a plastic player that you put discs in and it plays it. So you need to serve people with the physicality of it. Retail and partnerships are important, right? You and I both waited in many lines at many early morning openings to rush in there and sprint against everyone else. I usually lost the race, by the way. But, to get that console as fast as we possibly could. And it's just different now. So now they are basically an entertainment provider and not just a disc sort of producer and distributor. So if we think about that, the analogy of if we think maybe PlayStation's the HBO, Microsoft's the Netflix, and Nintendo's sort of the Disney, if we think about things like that, then their job is to get it incredibly interactive and engaging entertainment out to as many people as possible. And that's why I'm totally down. Now, you're absolutely right that when you're trying to sell someone the new version, is it 8K? Is it 16K? Is it 32K? Where are we going from here? Right now, I'm happy with the number of Ks, in the fidelity. It's great. Then the value proposition changes. And I understand why traditionalists are looking at that being I don't like change. I want it to only be where I want it to be. And that's the part where my logic gap starts to break. Because when Phil and his team are putting amazing content on more platforms, who's the victim? I've been asking a lot of people, like, who's the victim? And there aren't any, except for people that just like, well, I want it only where I bought it, and that's what I expect. So I think that's interesting. So I applaud them for being agile enough in a sort of changing and transition market to expand. But I agree with you that like the value proposition of that physical unit, that by the way, they weren't making a lot of money on anyway. No one makes a ton of money on the margin of those hard boxes. They make a lot of margin on selling content. So them leaning on that, I don't think it means it's the end of a physical entertainment unit in anyone's living room, but I do think that it's a sign of that the game sort of landscape's changing.
And there you go, folks. Great points. Great question from Danny Pena of course, Gamertag Radio, and Adam Boyes answered it, I think, perfectly. Now, again, I don't want to spend too much time on beating this topic to to death, because we've already talked about it. But I do kind of want to get your thoughts on what Adam Boyes had to say. Do you agree with his thought process
in the current environment? Yeah, definitely, because overall the big thing is, I guess it's the tale of two worlds right now. It's the older business model that works well for Sony, although they are having a bit of a hiccup, let's say, on their software end of things. They're still selling software, but they're not selling it in the same quantity that they did in the previous generation. They're not even selling the hardware in the same quantity of the previous generation. Yes, they're already at 60 million consoles, let's say. I think the previous gen would be ahead by 10 or 15 million. So there is a bit of a decline in comparison between PS4 to PS5. And with that being said, most of their games in PS4 generation were 20 million plus sales, like your God of Wars and your Spider-Man 2018. You're not getting that this gen. You're getting your 10 and 12s is the ceiling at this point. Especially when things like Helldivers 2, because of the support on PC, outpaced what Spider-Man 2 did. Now, Spider-Man 2 coming to PC, that could change. But the reviews aren't going very well right now, only because of other matters as far as the polishing or it. I joked with somebody on Party Chat yesterday. I think what they did was they took the original launch version of the PS5, whatever version of that, I should say, and then ported that as opposed to the updates that are currently on the PS5, which kind of sucks because you only have one chance to make a first impression. So if the game comes out buggy, just like it was on the PS5, PC players aren't going to put up with that. They're going to refund it. That'll be the end of it. They're not going to sit around and wait for a patch that might come 30 days later. So the fact that they didn't take the more recent version that's a little less buggy and port that over, although it could be because of timing or whatever, but they still should have worked in those updates into that release. But all of that being said, software is king now. That's always been the case for the most part. They used to sell these boxes at a loss, and then somewhere midway to the end of the generation, they start turning a profit. And in some cases, they make a profit earlier, although I question that somewhat because of the way PS5 said that they were selling the consoles at a profit. Not that I doubt them in any way, but if they go and do a reiteration, then that means some more R&D is involved, which is that cost calculated against what they're making at that point. And yes, they cheapened some of the components in there as far as the heating and cool. Well, not heating, but the cooling aspect and stuff like that. So they saved a few bucks, giving them more of a margin. But then what cost was the technical stuff to figure out how to get to that point? Was that calculated into that equation? And even if it's not, or even if it is, the key point is hardware was always the foot in the door to get in your house. So that way we can now sell you on more content, whether you're buying cartridges or discs or digital content. We want to get this brick by your TV that you can play stuff on, and we'll make more money on the stuff that you play. Because while games cost a lot, and they're even costing more now than they ever have before in comparison, but there's still that chance of a much greater margin. When you're looking at hardware, although some Sony hardware in the past, just as somebody that used to know a lot of people in the distribution business, as far as like for Best Buy and other electronic stores. Sony used to be a 50% margin on a lot of their electronics. Now, this was in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. That starkly changed around the 2010s to 2015 range, because their competition, like Samsung, kind of leapfrogged them as far as TV. So there wasn't as much margin in that regard. Now there's a ton of I would say debt or cost involved when it comes to hardware, because it's not that everybody's racing to the bottom, but to be competitive, you have to lower your price than the next guy. So that means instead of you making that 50% or what was considered a normal acceptable amount of 35% margin on a product, so for every $100 you're making 60, or you're making $35 out of the 100, the other 65 goes into your costs and whatnot type of thing. Instead of it being that high of a margin, now a lot of these electronics are working with 10, 15% margin. So that means for every $100, they're only pocketing $10 to $15 of that. So there's not as much room in that regard. But when it comes to a game, the normal margin sake would be for every $70, pretty much, if it's sold within their own store, I would say somewhere around like 85 to maybe 80 to 85% of that would be the margin. So that's why you can sometimes see a 50% off sale and they're still making a ton of money on the game, especially when it comes to digital. You do away with physical, you do away with your storing, your manufacturing, your shipping, distribution, and stuff like that. You just have server space that you're taking up, which costs pennies on the dollar in comparison to all the other formats. But all of that being said, the key thing is these companies make more money doing software. So if Xbox is pivoting to the point where their focus is on putting their software everywhere, that gives them more opportunity to get more customers to buy their software. It's a numbers game at that point. And Phil stated it at the business update last year. You can either monetize your existing customer base or you can find a larger customer base. Yep. So it's either we pay more for the games in-house and pay more for the subscriptions, which, yes, all of those costs will probably go up at some point down the road, which I'm not looking forward to. But before they get to that point, they could, easily do like what PlayStation's done, where it's the $10 upcharge as opposed to smart delivery being free. They could easily do, $10 more for their controllers and not really do any other improvements to the controllers, just increase the price of them. They could increase the price overall of their consoles and not change anything really on them other than, this is the new price, kind of like what PlayStation has done in quite a few regions. So PlayStation is famous for monetizing their existing customers or any customer that's coming into the fold that way. But with Microsoft reaching out to more people, putting their stuff on more platforms, sure, they're not getting 100% of it, but that 70% is better than 0%, because if they don't put it over there, that's guaranteed 0% additional that they're getting. They put it over there, they have the chance to earn another 70%. So it's where things are headed at this point. I know it's not the traditional way of doing things, and we still have traditional business models functioning and being successful at this time. Although I think in the grand scheme of things, if you're not questioning what PlayStation is doing, if they're as successful as everybody believes they are, and the numbers show that they are being somewhat successful, why are they canceling so many games and having so few releases that are first party? Third party is going to make games regardless. They can money hat them. That's money out of their pocket, which is cheaper than actually making the game. It's cheaper to money hat a game than to make it yourself. But if they're canceling a ton of the first party games, obviously there's going to be some financial woes. Whatever costs went into producing and paying those employees to produce that game that is never going to see the light of day to be released because it's canceled. That's sunk money. That's lost funds. That could be hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And if they're closing the studios afterward, which I'm waiting for an announcement on Ben to see if they go back to being a support studio, because if they're, they were on shaky ropes with, Days Gone not being as successful as Sony would have liked critically. So with that being said, they were relegated to like a support studio. Well, they didn't really appreciate that. Some people left and expressed their discontent with that. But then when they got the chance to make a new IP, now that was canceled. So it was like their Hail Mary was that new IP being that games as a service that was recently canceled. So what's left for them to do? Pitch another game. Well, if it's Days Gone 2, does it get approved this time? Does it get, whatever if they get another shot, how long before we see that game? That could be 3 to 5 years from now.
Great point, man.
And that's more cost, thrown in as far as more salaries, more resources and time spent making that game. Or does Sony say, you know what? Instead of spending $200 million to have you make this next game, why don't we just close that studio and save ourselves over the next 5 years $1 billion? That could be the thing. So the industry is changing. We see the highs and lows with layoffs and numbers and things along those lines. But I think what Microsoft is doing now is trying to take advantage of more players where they're at, because it is hard convincing somebody to change brands. Like, you may be a fan of Coca-Cola. Is there anything that Pepsi can do other than possibly cutting the price down, when it's on sale to convince you? I mean, some people don't care either way if they're drinking soda at all. Most people, I would hope, are drinking something a little healthier. But all of that aside, it's like, is Pepsi going to convince you to change if you're a fan of Coca-Cola? Well, Microsoft is kind of in that same boat. Can they convince somebody that's already got the PlayStation in front of their TV to ditch that to get their box? Or is it easier just to put the game in front of them and say, hey, try this game out. We see your first party is a little light this year. We'll hand you 3 games that you can choose from while you wait for Ghost of Yotai type of thing. But I'm just joking at this point. But no, in all seriousness, I think Adam Boyd's viewpoint, since he was in that industry, makes total sense. And I think it's an accurate depiction of how things are transitioning at this point. And we'll see how Sony's plan to go PC or day and date for PC, how long that takes. I think with Hiroki Toki moving further up the chain over at Sony and leaving Nishino, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Leaving him in charge now, since, it was, he won the battle between him and Herman Holtz. So with that being said, since hardware was already doing well, putting him in charge makes sense. Now we'll see what the landscape is like for day and date for PC, which I think is sooner rather than later. Because if Spider-Man was released while there was that buzz, or Spider-Man 2, I should say, was released on PC while there was that buzz on console, probably would have done better. And for those that say, oh, cannibalize the sales, well, let's think about this. The only difference would be, like, your extreme fans that have both PC and PlayStation 5 are going to probably buy it in both places, since they don't get the dual entitlement like they do with Xbox games. So they're going to buy it to make up for the difference for the guy that would have been on the fence of, well, I have a PS5 and a PC, but I'd rather play it on PC because of the mods. The other fan base will make up for the ones that will not dual dip or double dip as far as that game. And if there's a PC guy that had absolutely no need or necessity or want to get a PS5, they would have that game. They would probably pull the trigger sooner rather than, oh, it's 2 years later, or well, actually in this case, I think a year later, or a little less than a year later. They would wind up, having other games in that time span that will probably get their interest. Like a perfect example of a game that's probably going to do better on PC than on console is Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yep.
And that's right around the corner. But all of that being said, software is where it's at. Microsoft is taking advantage of it, being a software company. Sony's taking advantage of being a hardware company while selling a lot of PS5s. But I wouldn't say they're struggling, but they are definitely in a tight spot as far as their first party when it comes to software. So we'll see how it pans out.
Indeed. Listen, we have nearly 800 people here, which is awesome, watching live across Twitch, X, and of course YouTube. Want to say a big thank you for everyone that tuned in. We do have one topic, and this one topic continues the conversation of Forza Horizon 5. Why I want to continue this, because I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question to the community. Now, Gran Turismo 7, again, folks, take it with a grain of salt. supposedly has sold 14 million copies across PlayStation 4 and 5. If that in fact is the case, that's freaking awesome. 14 million is a lot of consoles, which means that there are a lot of racing fans on PlayStation. So, with that said, Fuzzy Belvedere, and I do want to ask the question and immediately hand it back to you. I understand that there is a stark difference in racing style between Gran Turismo 7 and Forza Horizon 5. Clearly, one's a sim, one is an arcade racer, right? You can't make that mistake.
Yeah.
But it's safe to assume that if Forza Horizon 5 is going, well, Motorsport at some point is going to go as well. And when you have both of these racers on PlayStation 5, my question to you, and this is a question for the chat as well, what is the need for Polyphony's Gran Turismo? There is none. There is none, ladies and gentlemen. Polyphony was a dynamite studio in the yesteryears of PlayStation. As a matter of fact, the last Gran Turismo that I played that I loved, adored, is one of their best-selling. That's Gran Turismo 3. They have not been the same since. And Fuzzy Belvedere can tell you that because this is Mr. Racer himself. They're just not the same. So if you can turn around and get Turn 10 and Playground Games, two of the premier developers for racing, to put their games onto PlayStation, what does that mean for the Gran Turismo franchise? Well, I'm going to tell you what Jinzo86 said. He drops a $2 super chat, and we'll get to those on the back end of this conversation. It's official. Gran Turismo is dead. And I think he's onto something. I really think that there is no room, rhyme, or reason to have a Gran Turismo move forward when you have Forza Horizon 5 confirmed, and it's only a matter of time before Turn 10's Forza Motorsport gets on there. When those two games are on there, even though they're going to be older, they're going to be better than any Gran Turismo, including the one that's currently available. And I think at that point, there's no reason for a Gran Turismo 8. There's just not. Am I wrong in saying so, Fuzzy Belvedere?
It's a tough one, and I'll explain why. Like, the biggest problem I have with Polyphony is that they are very, very, very slow. And what I mean by slow, there are decades sometimes, it seems, that are in between their games. Like Rockstar is kind of in that same boat now as well. But I think that's by choice. And Polyphony's always been slow, like since the original Gran Turismo. So moving forward, considering that they are launching their game, at least the past few games, whether you're looking at Sport or you're looking at GT7 or you want to look at 5 Prologue or Gran Turismo 6 on, was that PS3 time frame, they release the game with less cars, less tracks, and take 10 times, or not 10 times, but at least double the amount of time it takes somebody like Turn 10 or Playground Games to release their racing games. Now, both teams have taken a little bit longer this time. Like Turn 10 took longer between 7 and the current Forza Motorsport, but they were given that time to kind of, I hate using that catchphrase, but built from the ground up. So they had a reason for taking that extra time. When it came to Playground Games, I think it was because they were looking to, one, divvy up the teams for Fable as well as for Forza Horizon, as well as they wanted to give these games a little bit more lifespan, because if you keep on turning a game around like they used to, where it was like every 2 to 4 years, after a while, what's the difference between this one and this one other than like the scenery or the location? And I think giving that a little bit more time to breathe and a lot more time for community content to help, expand the game, and some of the DLC that they've done as well, I think that's given them a lot more leeway to, improve or advance the game. So that way the quicker turnaround wasn't as much of a noticeable leap or improvement in comparison. Yes, visually they always, were better than the previous one. But as far as some of the content, it may be, more of, I wouldn't say more of the same, but a lot of stuff that wasn't new to that genre. And they've done a pretty good job in the spacing more recently to be able to, excuse me, add that type of stuff. But when it comes to, Gran Turismo 8, if Motorsport goes over there, I have, like I said earlier, I have my complaints for both. One of my biggest complaints on Gran Turismo is that for a racing game, other than Formula One, every other form of racing, except for maybe motorcycles, because I think GP does this as well, where you have a static start or a grid start, but every other format does double file rolling start. Cars are side by side, double file. In some cases, like the Indy 500, triple wide, all in a line, side by three cars side by side each other in a line, rolling. Gran Turismo can't do that for whatever reason. And it's supposed to be the premier racing game, but it can't do the most basic thing of how to start a race. Now, some of their more recent ventures have had it where it's kind of a staggered side by side, but it's still almost like the single file that they've been doing for years, which even NASCAR did single file restarts in was it like 2010 or even probably before that. And the only reason why they had the single file thing was because a lot of the short tracks, because of how they set. But then they looked at it. It probably makes more sense if we're going to have 30 to 40 cars on the track to have a double file. So you're not having it where, the back of the line is, a few car lengths in front of the front of the line type of deal. But all of that aside, I think there will still be diehards that will only buy Gran Turismo. Will there be enough at that point if Motorsport is over there? It's hard to say. One of my biggest complaints about Motorsport is that they don't do one of the feature or two of the features that GT7 has done really well. One being upload your own decals. I love that fact about GT7. I really wish Turn 10 would stop catering to their painting community. And this is no shade to their painting community. But if it's a licensing thing, how does PlayStation or Polyphony get around it? Like, do you have to have a post office box in Japan to avoid potential licensing issues as far as being able to upload your own decals? Or do you just have to have a better moderation system to make sure, offensive content doesn't make it into the game type of deal? Either way you look at it, they do have moderation for, designs that you make in game. But then even some of that moderation seems to be AI run as opposed to human run. Because I've had issues with things like the Steve McQueen bullet paint scheme, which is just basically a special green metallic paint. And I guess because either McQueen was a word that was blocked or bullet was a word that was locked. Not bullet like you would spell for a gun, but bullet like you spell for the car. And I couldn't get it uploaded. But all of that stuff aside, uploading decals is one thing I would love to see Playground and Turn 10 allow for. And then the other thing is use cars from your garage for custom single player races. That's the big thing that allows me to replay a lot of the races in GT7 because I can recreate the paint schemes of cars or use other community liveries that were made. And if they made one that's like for an IMSA race from the 90s or the 2000s, I can actually load those on cars I have in my garage and then recreate that race where I can start in 20th or like you can adjust where you start in Motorsport now, but you can't adjust the paint schemes of your competitors, which I know it sounds like a nitpick or anything like that. But for me, believe me, for those that want to have that sim immersion, it would be a big feature to add to Motorsport. But I think if Motorsport comes over, I think it would be a nice head-to-head battle as far as sales. I think in the grand scheme of things, because let's just be real. I think Motorsport is I wouldn't say less intimidating, but the more
easily
adjustable.
accessible?
It's definitely easier, more accessible in comparison to GT7. because, and this is where people pick at it, it's like, oh, it's arcadey and sim arcade. You can set it like that if you want to make it so it's easier to race, or you can turn everything off and make it a true sim at that point. So there is that greater window that will appeal to more people or more players. With GT7, a lot of their accessible features as far as making it easier for people to play or get into it, whether they're using a controller or wheel and pedals, aren't as great. Like their traction control setups, as well as their steer and counter steer, are some of the worst from an arcade or even controllability standpoint. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, why would you have, the counter steer on or the traction control? Believe me, I've raced around a lot of people that have that stuff on, and you can definitely see the difference. But a lot of people will use that. And then, like, a lot of people on my PlayStation friends list have played Gran Turismo for a whole 2 hours, and then I don't see them on there anymore. They did like the music race thing, and that was about it. But it's probably, in a lot of cases, I found they didn't know how to adjust the camera. They didn't know how to adjust some of the driving aids that are in the game, which gets a lot of people frustrated. And for those that know how to turn those off and don't do the single player, they mainly do the online multiplayer stuff. It's a great sim in the sense of you have less rammers, which Motorsport definitely improved this go around on their online. The rammers get stuck with rammers as opposed to being filtered into those that want to race clean and stuff like that. But they both have their place. But I think Motorsport would do better just because more people will be able to pick it up and feel like they're racing right off the rip, and not have to worry about getting a billion licenses ahead of time to be able to run the race that they want to race. So we'll see. But Polyphony definitely needs to speed things up. And I was hoping they would have put Gran Turismo on PC by this point, because to me, that would have been a better alternative on PC because of mods. And just a brief explanation. Motorsport, as well as Horizon, you can't do mods, which it's understandable for the online component. But every other racing game ever in existence that's been on PC allows for mods. And the reason why that's good is because you see things a lot of times of old Assetto Corsa footage where people are racing on the highway, dipping in and out of traffic because of mods. You'll see different mods where you'll have a variety of different cars that may not have been put in that game that have been rescanned and put into that game from, let's say, older Forza Motorsports or things like that. And I get it, licensing and whatnot, but if you're going to have a mod community out there that is only for the offline stuff or for private servers, that to me makes sense. And for whatever reason, Turn 10 is strongly against it, and Playground Games is strongly against it. I kind of get why, but it's one of my gripes with them. But Polyphony, considering they allow you to upload your own decals, I would say the mod community would probably take that and make that the de facto replacement for the old Assetto Corsa. Now, Assetto Corsa is in early access with Evo right now. We'll see if that becomes the new de facto sim racer for those that are into mods and creating those types of videos where you see people drifting on certain games that look like they're photorealistic, but they're based off of an older engine type of deal. I think GT7 would have been that better suited game to do that, but that's only because Polyphony probably wouldn't get in the way of the modding community like Turn 10 and Playground Games does. But all of that said, GT would take a bit of hit in sales, and I don't think it would go away completely. But then again, I didn't think Drive Club would go away completely either, and we see what happened with that. So we'll see.
Well, interestingly enough, we got some breaking news regarding Gran Turismo 7. Literally, this was posted. It's starting to pop up in different feeds. This comes the way of Game Rant, ladies and gentlemen. GameRant.com. It was written by Dominic Bosnek. Apparently, according to the report, the Gran Turismo 7 PC port has reportedly been canceled. It's been shelved. So there is on this report, and I'm going to read verbatim from the article. It goes on to say, the rumored Gran Turismo 7 PC port has reportedly been canceled. This move makes the immediate future of Sony's PC porting efforts appear a bit hazier. And of course, we do know that Gran Turismo 7 debuted on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 in early March of 2022. And according to the article, by that time, Sony had already started porting PlayStation games to PC, beginning with titles like Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, and God of War. And while plenty of other PlayStation games have appeared on Steam since then, Gran Turismo 7 was never officially confirmed to be in development for PC, but apparently has now been shelved. The question is why? Well, you could probably thank all the money that they lost. They've closed down games, they've closed down studios, and that's very interesting because again, folks, I said from the opening of the show that the rumor is that they've sold 14 million copies of Gran Turismo 7, which is really good considering that it is a sim racer. And of course, that is that's from PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. I would imagine if they would have been ported to PC, it would have sold even better. Yeah. But again, folks, this is very interesting, and I do think that Fuzzy brings up a great point about the length of time it takes from game to game with polyphony. They are slow. Yeah. They just really are. So again, it's just an opinion. I think that if you have Forza Horizon 5 come to the console, and it does really well, and I expect to do ridiculous numbers on PlayStation because they don't have their own arcade racer, and there's no one better in the business than Forza Horizon 5. But if somehow Motorsport does make that transition, and I think it only makes sense, right? Like, why wouldn't you put it over there? I think it has a chance to really kick the tire, so to speak. And when you have a sim racer like what they have currently on Xbox, which is Motorsport, which is the newest one, and you have a arcade racer, you have the bookends. If you can get someone to buy one of them, you're probably going to get someone to buy the other one. And if that does happen and they're enjoying these Xbox racers on PlayStation, that puts a lot of pressure on polyphony to deliver. And at that point, if they can't, again, folks, just read the room. I'm not saying that there's not going to be a Gran Turismo 8. I'm saying that now it's even harder. It's going to be even more difficult for the team to deliver because they have to do better than Gran Turismo 7, which, again, sold apparently 14 million copies. That's no slouch. But the PC version that would have sold probably another 3, 4, 5 million copies has been shelved. So now what do? Do they continue to support it? Of course they're going to continue to support it. But now they have to move on to Gran Turismo 8. How many years will that be before that happens? PlayStation 6? You said it. You said 2030. I was going to say that in jest, but you might be onto something. But look, that's going to do it for us here. We went a little bit over the 90 minutes. Hopefully you enjoyed the show enough to hit the like button. Again, if you don't agree with the points, I'm not going to fight you on it. Hit the thumbs down button. It's okay. It's engagement. You're here. You watched it. Maybe you're yelling at the screen. I don't know why you would, but it's just opinions, folks. But at the end of the day, we do hope that you did enjoy your time with us here. Let me catch up on the super chats before we get on out of here. And again, there's been a lot of them. So the Broke Boy or the Insider Broke Boy Lewis dropped an additional $2 super chat and said, Sea of Thieves outsold Astrobot on PlayStation 5 in Europe. And that's sad. Folks, I'm not going to continue to beat the drum for Astrobot. If you don't like platformers, I hear you. If you are a PlayStation owner, my God, why didn't you support this game? It's brilliant. It's just so good. It is a love letter to everything PlayStation. Buy the game, man. Buy the game so they can continue to make other Astrobots. That's just my take on it. Dragon Wolf, who's been a channel member for 12 months. Oh, thank you so much, brother. He says, I'm 54. I don't care who gets to play. I care about Game Pass and the money it saves me. And if PlayStation gamers help fund it, then have at it. I mean, that's a great attitude to have. And again, I'm there. I'm 54 with you. I'll be 55 at the end of the year. I'm an old man. It's fine. Things are changing. Don't mess with my Game Pass. Don't take anything away from me to give to PlayStation. We're cool. No torches and pitchforks here, brother. Thank you so much for that. And of course, I had mentioned earlier that Jinzo had said that it's official. Gran Turismo is dead. Again, that's subjective, but I think what it does is it does put a lot of pressure on Polyphony to deliver, and they already take so long. They just so I don't understand what takes so long for their games, but it's fine. Black Sausage in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "So, when are PlayStation Studio games coming to Xbox? I'm on PC, so none of this affects me, but I feel bad for Xbox customers who get 0 PlayStation Studio games." I mean, look, my answer to that, I think, is simple. For Xbox Series X and S gamers, probably not anytime soon. Now, again, they could fast track getting games onto Xbox, like a Days Gone or a Spider-Man, but I don't know if they have the teams available to do that development. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? Like they're in a tailspin now, trying to figure out their identity. What they're going back to single player games. They still want to do gas games. They're making some changes at leadership. Some people have been demoted. Some people have been promoted. They're making some big changes at PlayStation. They just again, to the rumor, just canceled and shelved the Gran Turismo 7 PC port. They have to figure it out over there. When they figure it out, maybe you get games on Xbox. I personally think that they're going to go full pedal to the metal, no pun intended, of getting games day and date in PC. And I think that starts with Ghost of Yotai. I think that's the first one. I really do. That's going to be a big seller for them on PC. It just is. But if Xbox is doing what we discussed earlier and we've been discussing, if this magic box that shows up next year can play Steam games and PlayStation games are available on Steam day and date, guess what, Xbox players? There you go. You've won. Now you're playing Xbox. You have Game Pass, and now you're buying your PlayStation games through Steam, and you can play it on that box. You don't need a PS6. Who wins? You do. So there you go. Brett Bingham drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Remember when PlayStation came out with the Elite controller? What controller was it based off of again? PlayStation is a clown platform with a three-ring circus. Change my mind." My brother actually really likes that Elite controller. I do not. The PlayStation one, he really likes that controller. I tried it. He was going to buy it for me for Christmas. I told him, please don't, because I like the DualSense. I like what it is. I don't like the sticks. The sticks in that location just seems wrong. It's felt like that for years, which is why whenever they come out with a PlayStation version of an Xbox controller, that's what I buy. That's what I use. J-Mac drops a very generous $5 super chat. J-Mac goes on to say, Microsoft has grown up just like we have when you were a kid. Your exclusivity at home when you grow up. If you're a big fan, you see it. You see the world. #graybeards. I mean, look, it's either you accept that the gaming is changing or you just get left behind. I don't know what else to say. I'm not capping for anybody. This is happening, and it's happening in a big way. Like I said it before, is it going to happen to Sony? Yeah, at some point. They're going to put their games everywhere. They are. How long they take to get there is the question. And the only one that might be numb from that, I really believe, is Nintendo, because their first party games sell better than anybody's. They just do. Look at the numbers. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Snow Dragon in the chat drops a very generous $2 super chat. Says, "Boom, what games are you using for virtual exercise?" I'm using a program. It's $100 a year. I think it's $99 a year. It's called Supernatural Fitness. It's like literally changed my life. I've taken off nearly 20 pounds in the year since I started it. I just made a year January 14th. And it is really, I'm in the best physical shape that I've been in a decade. And I know it sounds silly. Oh, it's a VR. How you work. And what I love about it is the trainers, they're not calling you by name. They're virtual reality trainers, but it's phenomenal. You open up with stretching, you close with stretching, and you do all your workouts in the middle. It's phenomenal. So yeah, it's called Supernatural Fitness. Go check it out. As a matter of fact, you know what, brother? If you're on Twitter, DM me, and I'll send you a guest pass so you can try it out without and anybody. If you I get 5 guest pass a month. DM me if you want to try Supernatural Fitness. Please email me or DM me, and as long as you give me your email, I'll send you it's. I think it's good for 30 days. Try it out if you have the virtual reality headset. I really think it would do good for you. I need it because I have serious hardware in my back. I can't do weights. Like I used to be a gym head for years. I used to be able to curl 35s like it was nothing. I can't do that now. So Pilates, I tried, is boring. So this is great. And I am drenched when I am done. I work out for 60 minutes. I do 4 exercises from 4 different trainers, and I'm dead. But it's worth every freaking second. So again, if you folks want to try out for yourself, email me or DM me with your email address, and I get 5 passes a month. I'll send you one. It's not a problem. Roshan Impenger drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Boom, love you, but help me here. If it's about the games, why try so hard to keep others on Microsoft? I don't understand the defense from Microsoft. Just enjoy games." Well, I mean, they're a business. They want you to play on Xbox, right? They want you to buy the next hardware. But I think what Microsoft is doing is they don't care where that money comes in from. I mean, just look. First of all we got to do is look at December. They posted a nearly $500 million month. And most of that, which is bonkers, came the way of PlayStation. They equated for nearly 65% of the sales that made that $500 million month for them. And that's going to increase. Again, if they release Starfield, Indiana Jones, The Outer Worlds 2, Forza Horizon 5, and it just keeps going and going and going, the next December or the next quarterly for them, when all of these games are available on PlayStation and Switch, they're going to have $1 billion number to report. Now, again, I don't care because I'm not making any money on that, to be honest with you. But from a consumer's point of view, the more money they make, I have to believe Phil Spencer when he says they're investing in first party, they're investing in hardware development, and they're investing in Game Pass. I mean, just look at what's happening this year for Game Pass. Are they investing? Yeah, I think so. So that's where it matters to me. But we also have here Gamers Play Hut Zero, who's been a channel member for a whopping 38 months. Gamer, thank you so much for that. He says, check this out, Boom. Video game software needs to make profit. Revenue is okay, but profit is what devs need to make more games. Microsoft is doing it right. Yeah, they absolutely are. We don't like it. OGs like me don't like it, but it's the reality of business. We have Solatech here, who's been a channel member for 4 months. He basically says, hit the like button. And yes, that's very kind of you for supporting the channel, but thank you for letting people know hit the like button. Jay Fuller, who's been a channel member for over a year. So Jay, thank you so much for the support. This is a great show, guys. When everyone plays, we all win, indeed. And again, I know that's a lot of people don't like to hear that. They get really angry. They get triggered by that. Folks, it's just the reality of business. We have a couple more here before we get everyone out. The Gamer 608 drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, hello from Belgium. Well, that's awesome. Well, hello here from New Rochelle, New York. Thank you so much for popping in. He says, did you guys realize Xbox got already 9 live service games on PlayStation, and they're going to hit 12 gas games faster than PlayStation? I mean, that's why PlayStation tried to listen. Don't get mad at this, folks. PlayStation likes to copy. They're that kid that goes like this, is copying your test. That's what they do. They let Microsoft get all the arrows, all of the torches and pitchforks, all of the kicks to the ribs, and then they come in like Mr. Big Shot and be like, hey, we're doing this, and everyone cheers them on. That's just what they do. That's PlayStation as a whole. They're going to follow suit. I don't know how long it's going to take. They will do what Xbox is doing because they're going to see how much money Xbox is making off of their consumer because they're going to have the numbers. You'll see. King Styles, been a channel member for 6 months. Thank you so much for that, brother. He says, hit the like and subscribe. Thank you very kindly. Nobody does it better than this guy 5 days a week. Boom. That's awesome. I really appreciate the accolades. I mean, I love doing this. That's why I stream 5 days a week. I love talking about games, and well, it gives me something to do, and it's just been a lot of fun. Boss Mod, Lethal Papa, generous friend of the program, has been a channel member for 64 months. My God, brother. That's very kind of you. He says, hit the like and share out this everywhere. I really appreciate that as well, because sometimes I forget to say it. Harky Chani is in the chat. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, ponies pay, we play. Time to pony up, PlayStation players. I like what you did there with the pony acronyms. Very, very nice there, fella. We also have the Windsor guy, 22, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, don't get why people like Jimmy Neutron are still stuck in the 90s thinking Sony won't do the same games. Games cost too much to make now. Times are changing. I mean, he's not wrong. Again, Sony is slower, but they're going to do it. Smokey's been a channel member for 46 months. Smokey, great to have you here, brother, and thank you for the generosity. He says, what's the prediction for the price of Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5? How much will it change for a game that's that age? I think it's going to be $70, but I think they're going to include everything. I think it's going to be maybe there's the Game of the Universe edition where it has all the car packs, it has the DLCs, and it has the game. And it's $76.43 for PlayStation players, because at that point, everything has already been released, right, Fuzzy? So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think if they do a base game version, it'll be 50, and then the full version, I think, would be 70, because I think that's what it goes for now on Steam and even on Xbox.
Oh, okay.
This many years later, so.
Well, there it is. Thank you, Smokey. Will the Broke Boy Lewis drops an additional very generous $5 super chat and says, believe if you want. Ecstasies is saying Avowed will have a 30, 40, and 60 frames mode on Series X and a 30 and 40 frames mode option on the Series S. That is the rumor. Obviously, I cannot comment. I'm under NDA. I'm reviewing the game. I am playing it. I'm going to have a full review top to bottom on the 13th when the embargo lifts. I believe it for us here on the East Coast, it's 9 a.m. But I'll confirm once I've beaten the game and we have the video up and ready to rock and roll. But that someone on Reddit put that out there. I don't know if they named themselves, but you're not supposed to do that because you're under NDA when you accept these games to review. And I've seen a lot of sites like Tom Henderson's site reporting on it. I mean, again, all your favorite content creators are reviewing it. We'll have all the deets for you when an embargo lifts. BT Maverick drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, boom, being someone that just got a review copy, do you look back at your backlog for Game Pass games with remorse, even though it's an exciting thing to get? Dude, my backlog is egregious. And I buy games. I buy a lot of smaller stuff. I buy a lot of indie stuff that's not in Game Pass. And I'm just throwing money to the wind. The Blade Zero game that's coming out for PlayStation, that's day one. That's not even a freaking question, bro. I'm buying that game. And what's going to happen is I'm probably going to play an hour. But I want to support the studio. It looks dope as H. And I want in on the ground floor for that particular game because, like I said, I'm a big fan of samurais. I'm a big fan of that type of genre. But I'm playing, again, there's 3 games I'm playing, one of which is on your screen now. I can't stop playing it. They're in season 2. I'm reviewing Avowed. I'm playing a redacted game, which I can't talk about yet. And backlog who? What? Where? If I have one, I'm saddened to see it because Sniper Elite just came out. I want to play that. There was an RPG, I forgot the name of it, that came out that looks
Eternal Strands.
Yes, I'm not gonna have any time. So great question, and yeah, I'm saddened every time I look back at the This game in front of you is the devil right here. Call of Duty, you're the devil. I'm sorry. God damn it. I can't stop playing it. But Scott Gamer Dude, here's the last two of the day, and he's a big bomb. Scott Gamer Dude drops a whopping $20 super chat. Scott goes on to say, hello, Boom. Not related to any of the topics, but I just bought my first collector's edition of WoW. Talk about Xbox being consumer friendly. I bought the standard and will be reimbursed once I activate the collector's edition. Wow, that's pretty
awesome.
Freaking cool, dude. Like, I didn't know they even did that. That is awesome. I don't really buy them anymore because we're in a small apartment, so I don't, and storage is starting to fill up, which I got rid of a lot of my collection. But I'm not going to front. I did pre-order the Doom Dark Ages collector's edition because that statue looks dope. Lastly, East Texas Alex, brother, great to see you back here. Thank you very much. He drops a very generous $20 super chat and says, thank you for all the great content. Very kind of you, brother. Thank you so much for saying so. You have come so far in your journey as a content creator. I still remember when you were known as the guy who buys everything on Mooch's and Scrap Gamers show. Thank you sincerely. Well, brother, first of all, thank you for the very kind words. And we love the fact that the $20 comes in and we get to turn that into gifts to the community, which of course is what we're going to do. But the kind words are worth its weight in gold. That is very kind of you to say. And yes, if you didn't know, I started on Crossfire, Jesus, years ago, a long time ago. And obviously, Crap and Mooch are doing their thing, and I'm doing my thing, and we all want to again. I really wanted to kind of like focus on this channel, which is why we do 5 shows a week. And again, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. This was a very long show. Normally, it's not 2 hours, but we had a lot to get into. I am going to dice it up into 3 different videos, and I'll do that as soon as the show is done. But let's sell your brand, Fuzzy Belvedere, but not just your brand, the Mrs.'s brand as well. Obviously, if you didn't know, Fuzzy's Belvedere's channel is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre, and I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say about Gran Turismo, what happens to that franchise in the future. Of course, Forza Motorsport potentially going over there. Forza Horizon 5 confirmed for PlayStation 5 this spring, and you're going to hear his thoughts even further, so please subscribe to his YouTube channel. But his wife has a horror show each and every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, and I'd like you to sell both brands. Tell everyone where they can subscribe to both YouTube channels, but more importantly, sir, follow you guys on social media.
As always, thank you, Boom, for having me on. Always awesome doing this podcast on Friday mornings and breaking news and all. Always love talking to the chat about it and everything. So much fun this year as far as games. I honestly think this is going to be the year of the backlog overkill pretty much. But aside from that, always love doing this. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Greatly appreciate you guys coming out. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate it. And for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, especially with Horizon going over to PlayStation, just follow me on social media, except Facebook. Just do a search for Fuzzy_Belvedere or Fuzzy Belvedere, all one word. You'll be able to find me there as well as YouTube. And then for those that are into horror movies, definitely check out my wife's podcast tonight at 6 p.m. tonight, Friday, or this Friday at 6 p.m. tonight, Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. We'll be talking about a movie called Don't Suck with Jamie Kennedy and Matt Rife. It's going to be an interesting topic because I think half the panel enjoyed it and the other half is not feeling it. So we'll see how it lands as far as our conversation tonight. But check it out, 6 p.m. tonight, Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. The link will be in the chat. And then I'll also be on Xbox Ultimate at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fun Speculations channel. Definitely check that out. Pretty sure we'll be talking some more about the upcoming Xbox games as well as just a ton of games that just landed into Game Pass. So, yeah, check us out tonight, 9 p.m., Fun Speculations channel. Be there. And then no Pot Shop podcast this Saturday, but Pixelated Echo Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, me and 3-Bit. We'll be talking about some of the stuff involving with the industry and some of these interviews that have happened over the past few days. So definitely check us out on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Do a search for Pixelated Echoes, and then hope to see everybody right back here Monday afternoon for Xbox Lunch Break Special. Hope to see you guys there.
Thank you. And again, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all of the super chats, channel memberships that happened today, as well as the channel memberships that continue to go on in the background. Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for the generosity. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. If you didn't like the show, I hear you hit the thumbs down button. I won't get offended. But if you did like the show, you did like the conversation, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. And even if you're feeling extra froggy and you want to leap, share this on social media. We'd greatly appreciate it. Again, for Fuzzy Belvedere, for myself, that's going to do it for us on Breakfast with Boom. Of course, we're going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.